Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video. So we're going to be talking about Tim Norman today. Being that, he has been involved in this trial, he has been put on Front Street for what he has done, amongst other things. There's been a lot of conversation, obviously, about him. That goes without saying. But here's the thing. For all that we have discussed, especially on this channel about him, for all that I have put out about him, there are still many things that I bet you may or may not know. And that's what we're going to discuss in this video. So stay tuned.
Every time I see you, you make my heart say,
Okay, guys, here we go. We're going to jump right on in. So we know that Tim has been found guilty of setting up his cousin to be unalived. I was trying to figure out how to say it. We know that he involved several different people in this process. We also know that although it's obvious that he made a lot of money, he still set up a insurance policy on his cousin with a rider on it saying that if he dies within the next 5 years, I'll get extra money, and if he dies from unnatural causes, I will get extra money. We also know that he was several $100,000 in debt to American Express, and they have a lien or judgment against him. But here's a few things that you might not have known about Tim Norman. Number one, and I do have notes here on my phone because I wanted to make sure that I articulated everything as accurate as possible for me. But again, I'm going to say for my protection that although these things have been put out and receipts can be made easily available, I'm going to say alleged for the purpose of my channel. I'm going to say that these things are alleged. But number one is the fact that Tim is the one who pitched Sweetie Pies to and eventually got the show on the OWN network. He's the one, it was his idea. He was his mom about it. He pitched it to, I guess, several networks, and OWN is the one who picked them up and decided to do the show. Welcome to Sweetie Pies. Okay. That's the one thing. And honestly, it changed that family's life. It brought them, they were already successful as far as the business was concerned, but then, or should I say his mother was successful because of the business, but it brought additional income to many members of the family because of the fact that, they got paid for being on the show. Now, Tim is the one who did the scripting of the show as far as deciding who would be on shows, on what days, etc., etc., and wrote out how things would go. So he was very hands-on with it. I don't know if he was receiving director pay or not, but he definitely was hands-on. He definitely had a lot to do with the show. And he definitely decided how a lot of things would go when it came to the show. And that's probably why even when his mother fired him from hitting on Andre and hitting on on Charles, he probably got his job back. That could have just been staged for the purpose of entertainment. But of course, we'll never know that. But that's number one. Number two, Tim in 2014 being an ex-convict who went to prison for kidnapping charges, terrorizing charges, inflicting harm on another, armed robbery, and more. Actually, in 2014, started a company called Armed and Dangerous LLC. Knowing that he already had, legal ramifications from a previous stint in prison, he still had the nerve to create a company called Armed and Dangerous LLC. And this was also shortly before he got the insurance policy on his cousin. Armed and Dangerous LLC. That was done in 2014. Also, for this business, he used the Sweetie Pie's location on Manchester for the address to Armed and Dangerous LLC. I don't know, because clearly he had a place to stay. I don't know if he did that for the purposes of trying to evade the fact that it was his company or not, but I mean, he's the one who actually filed the LLC, so I mean, that goes without saying that we would know who it was or whose business it was. So, I mean, if that was his goal, he was real stupid in that one. Okay, number 3. He owed the IRS over $1 million. Yeah. Not only did he owe over $250,000 to Amex, but the IRS has him owing over $1 million, which was probably him not doing taxes for the stores that he opened, him not doing his personal taxes, things of this nature, because they give you so much time. After that, they will put a judgment against you for the estimated taxes based on the earnings that was reported to them. So for him, that equaled over $1 million in taxes that he owed. And that's number 3. During this time period, this is number 4, during the time period that all of this was going on, him owing the IRS, him owing Amex, him making all this money with Sweetie Pies, he still almost was on his way to eviction in 2016. One of his locations, he had an eviction filed against him. I'm not sure. I know that at one point he actually did get evicted, but I don't know if it was this particular time. But one of his places that he was staying, he did not pay, or he got behind, and they did file an eviction on him. Even though he was making money, because he was making money up to the point that he went to jail. I mean, because there are still locations open. As a matter of fact, when he was arrested in Mississippi, and that was the last store that he opened. And he did that because his mother had a dream of always having a location back in Mississippi, which is where she was born. So that was the last store that he opened. Okay, number 5, I actually already mentioned, which was that he went to prison for kidnapping charges. This was his first time he went to prison. Kidnapping charges, terrorizing charges, terroristic threats, inflicting harm, armed robbery, and more charges. And because I'm not reading it verbatim from the paperwork that was filed against him, I'm going to say partially alleged, because of the fact that I may not be reading it exactly right. I did take notes from that, but I want to make sure that everything that I am saying is factual. So I'm going to say that this is alleged only because I'm not sure if the charges read exactly how I read them. So he did have charges very similar in nature, but I'm not sure if they was read the same way, because you could say terrorizing charges and then you could say terroristic threatening. But in the eyes of the law, that could actually be 2 separate things based on the degree. So I don't want to say anything wrong. So I'm going to say that Although he did have very similar charges, I'm not sure they were read exactly the way I read them. Okay, so I want to just make sure that. But that was number 5, that he had went to jail for that. So I found it. That's why I was so shocked that his mother doubted that he could have robbed her. He a robber. That's what he do. Like, he's done that. He went to prison for that. But yet you would think that Andre would rob you. Like, that's crazy to me, you know? And even though she may or may not have thought that he had something to do with it, it's never been said that she's ever mentioned that to anyone. I've never heard anyone say that she thought her son had something to do with her house being robbed. I've only heard her mention Andre, and that is because Tim said that he had something to do with it. Now, why Tim said that, who knows? I've never seen or heard that Andre had a large amount of money, that he was out spending a bunch of money. I did hear that he pawned a TV, and people was trying to say that that had something to do with that. And that's the proof that Tim allegedly used to say that he had something to do with it. But for the record, Andre was cleared of any involvement of her house being robbed. So I just want to make sure I state that, because he had nothing to do with it, and he's not been arrested. He never had any charges. He was completely cleared of any involvement of that. Okay, and the last 2 things I want to mention is this. It's already been talked about, but I'm going to say it again, that before Andre was even funeralized and buried, Tim had already tried to get the death certificate from him being shot, which is crazy. But of course, he was doing everything low key, so he probably couldn't talk to anybody about that, and didn't realize that death certificates aren't, that the funeral home has to actually do the paperwork, and they file it with the Department of Vital Statistics. As long as a person has ever lived, the funeral home is the one who does the paperwork and submits that. But for example, in the instance of someone, like, let's say, for instance, you had a stillborn child, and that child never took a breath, at that point, the hospital does the paperwork. I learned that through going through that process. But anyway, he did try to get the death certificate before Andre's service had even happened. And the last thing I want to mention in this video is he actually had Terica, which shout out to Chronicle Speaks. I heard this on a video that she put out. He had Terica thinking they went together. She had put up a post on social media saying after 11 years, he finally realized I was the one. She thought that they went together, and I guess she felt that way. Number one, he probably was, whispering sweet nothings to her, and that's why she went along with everything he was doing, trying to get his cousin in a place where he could find him. And number two, he gave her a large amount of money for her store, and that was probably another thing that made her feel that way. And I mean, all I can say is, I wrote down, poor thing, she didn't mention the name of the person when she did do the post, but whomever, a friend of hers, answered, or should I say replied to the post, and so she probably had spoken in detail with that person, and he was like, you better watch your back, like, just because somebody, gave you money or whatever, don't mean that, it is what it is. You still need to be careful and watch yourself. But he had her thinking that it was more than what it was, because, remember when she went out to California trying to open a boutique, her and her mama went to California, and she did meet with him. He took her and her mom out for for her mom's birthday. So, I mean, he played the little part, right? And kept in her good graces until, until they left there at least. I was told that after that, he kind of shied away from her, dealing with her as much. And I don't think they had saw each other again after the incident happened with him. And it was said that after she heard gunshots when she drove off from Natural Bridge, she did contact him and say, you know, kind of like, what the F? Like, what just happened? So to me, that signifies that she didn't really know what was going on, but at the same time, she still didn't call the police. So, I mean, and that's probably why she is in the position that she is in. But anyway, those are the things, and we'll conclude this video, that, like I said, we know a lot about him, but I'm not sure if you knew those things. So I wanted to bring them to your attention. And again, guys, thank you for taking the time to check out this video. If you are not a member here, please subscribe to the channel. Also, please like this video. Help us with the algorithm. And let me know what you think about the content of this video down below. I will see you there, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.
Yeah.